3, 2, 1.
I was trying to look up where to watch Pearl Harbor, to get ready for this podcast, but it just kept giving me like Trivago, like to Hawaii. Like it kept trying to get me to go there.
What an introduction by our very first guest, the one and only Runny Flan.
Yeah. Hello,
this
one
is
and all.
Baycast. This is Baycast.
Welcome to Baycast.
Jacob.
I'm your host, Jacob, and this is my other host,
Michael.
And we are here with our very special first guest, content creator, and also the person who produced all the thumbnails for our podcast, Runny Flan.
And the logo. And the logo, but that's neither here nor there. Great to be here. I mean, not really, because I had to watch a 3-hour movie. I really chose like the worst episode.
You could have chosen literally any episode to join this.
Yeah,
but you chose
I mean, to be fair,
Harbor.
I also might be on the 6 Underground episode allegedly, but yeah. Or if we end up doing a big, I might be willing to come on for one of the Transformers ones if we do like a big watch party of that. But the reason why I chose this one is I have a bit of a unique history with it. I think it's easily the Michael Bay movie I've seen the most, because I used to actually watch it a lot when I was younger with my mom. This Pearl Harbor. Yes, the Pearl Harbor movie.
Pearl Harbor. We're talking about the same Pearl Harbor, right?
Yeah. Michael Bay's version of Titanic. Yeah. And I always liked it. I don't dislike it. I just think that it doesn't need to be 3 hours. That's my main complaint with it. But yeah, I've seen it at least 6 times, I think, in total. Granted, a lot of the time I would probably be on my DS a little bit during some of the romance stuff, because
you spent nearly a day of your life watching Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. So Jacob, some people live the day of their life at Pearl Harbor. So I should consider myself lucky that I only had to watch the shitty movie.
Shouldn't be Ben Affleck on the cover. It should be Running.
I mean, honestly, like I'm not even I like it more than Titanic. And I think it's just because it's a little funnier. Because I think as a kid I was bored of Titanic and I couldn't get through it. But at least I wouldn't even want to look at my DS during Titanic. I'd have to be out of the room, But with this movie, I'd be like, yeah, I'll chill and watch this.
John.
There's some I like history. FDR shows up.
John.
And
I have to disagree with you strongly there. But before we get to that, Michael had apparently a very funny Michael Bay trivia fact of the day. So
this is one of the most Michael Bay trivia facts. Once again, read directly from IMDb. Pray to God it's true, and based on what it says, I think it is. Michael Bay's least favorite shot in the movie is the cutaway during the Doolittle raid to the Japanese woman turning and seeing the attack in the distance. On the DVD commentary, he admits he has no idea why the shot is in the movie or what he was trying to achieve in shooting it.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome.
Fucking good, right?
He's like, I have no idea why the fuck
I don't know why
that.
this is in here. Better shoot it.
Yeah.
Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. I actually rewatched your Armageddon episode, the one right before this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how it was when he started to realize that, hey, if I just do like some of this like romance stuff, throw in a bit of explosions, it does pretty well.
It's funny. Yeah, because we mentioned last episode that the romance subplot in Armageddon was actually added or expanded upon because Titanic was so popular.
I don't remember which one exactly, but it wasn't there much at all before.
Yeah, and it was a very big subplot in Armageddon, and now it's basically the entire movie of Pearl Harbor.
It literally is the entire movie.
So we already know John's thoughts, I guess.
I do want to emphasize that part of why I don't like Titanic is because I mostly don't like James Cameron, except for Terminator, specifically the first and the second one. Mostly the second one. I love the second one. Anything after that, I don't really care about it.
I don't like James Cameron's philosophy regarding his movies, but generally I enjoy most of them.
Yeah, I think he's made a fair amount of like. I think it's hard to say that he's made too many like bad movies. I'm just not a huge fan of his general style. It's more of a preference thing. But
But James Cameron is way
emphasize-
better at Titanic style movie than Michael Bay is.
Would you take James Cameron over Michael fucking Bay?
Well, here's the thing. Which one sounds more entertaining?
Which one sounds
I mean,
more
Michael
entertaining? Which
Pearl
one
Harbor
is?
sounded more entertaining, but after watching it,
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I think the main problem is that or at least with the way I kind of feel about this, is that I didn't necessarily like the movie a lot when I was younger. And we definitely didn't always watch it all the way through, probably. Like, I would see bits and pieces and I would, like, leave the room.
Oh, shit, it's 3
go on the
hours.
Wii or something a little bit, But, like, I have more fond memories of the experiences watching it than I do Titanic. Because my experience with Titanic, obviously, I didn't see it in theaters, But I saw it, like, at home.
Big
and it's
fan.
just, like... I think that's a movie that benefits from being in theaters for sure.
They're both definitely the movies center around spectacle.
They're intended to be spectacle movies.
But I
Well,
think
at least
one movie does it better than the other. But
at least
Yeah.
with Titanic in the beginning, even though it's not like, obviously it's not sinking yet. It's like, there's like some like beautiful shots of like the whole ship. It's very grand,
sets are, like, impeccable.
It's a very grand experience. But this movie starts out a lot slower.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get grand until everything is getting destroyed.
Very much
and then it
so.
stops being grand. It
Yeah.
immediately
Before we get to
stops.
that, Michael, I just want to know what are your general thoughts about this movie before we go into the plot?
About this movie, it's just a plotting, depressive mess. And honestly, for the first hour, I'm like, this is pretty shitty, but it's so generic and lazy that I am almost enjoying it ironically.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the fake out Ben Affleck death. And then I realized, oh, fuck, this is going to be a love triangle. God fucking damn it. And I just became miserable for the remaining 2 hours.
I think the first 2 times I watched it, I didn't even learn my lesson the first time. It took me 2 times to see the movie. I was like, wait, he lived? As a kid, I was like, oh my God. Because I didn't even... And as a kid, I would be really bad at guessing main characters coming back because, obviously if they get Ben Affleck for the movie, they're not just going to kill him off right away, So no matter how they framed it, he was going to come back, But nope. For me, it was just like, no, there's no way he comes back. There's no way.
That would have sucked because we just would have watched Ben Affleck fully getting cucked after his death. And this, at least he gets some agency. And I will say, to start with an actual discussion on it, I thought Ben Affleck's character was just generally less despicable than his character in Armageddon. Even though he was kind of an asshole, he seemed like more of a human being.
He seemed more like a reasonable asshole. Get where he's coming from, and he does eventually be like, you know what, I can live with this, and he kind of moves on,
Yeah.
Instead of just always being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like in Armageddon, where everyone was.
I think his character was it served the plot, but basically nothing else.
I'm not saying he's complex. I'm just saying I enjoyed his arrogant flyboy in this compared to his arrogant flyboy in Armageddon. It's an easy comparison considering they're fucking subsequent Michael Bay blockbusters.
Yeah, it is pretty. Let me just say, I had an absolutely terrible time watching this movie. I thought it was atrociously boring. But
yeah, you know what, Jacob, I think I might have told you this at the end of the movie, but there was a solid chunk where I had it on my other monitor and I was playing Fall Guys.
You fucking asshole.
In my defense, I have seen it 7 times. I was more so just trying to refresh my memory.
Piece of garbage while you played a great game like Fall Guys.
The alternative was watching it alone, to be fair.
I watched it alone at 1.5 and then 2 times speed.
Oh, really?
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I got impatient.
It's so boring.
It's actually so.
It's one of the worst paced movies I've ever seen because of how boring it is.
I honestly think that if you were to chop the whole last act out, where they're showing some parts of the war after it, when the U.S. gets into the war, if you chop that whole segment out, I think the movie would be a lot better. Because it's kind of weird that the movie, it's like, oh, this is the Pearl Harbor movie, but it happens like less than 2/3 into the movie, and then it's done, and the rest of the movie is just like something else.
Yeah, it's
it makes sense because it's of course based on what actually happened. So it's like, oh, let's show a bit of the events that happened afterwards.
One of the most shocking things as I was watching this movie, the only thing that kept me watching, besides the obligation to finish it for here, was I think it was I have the timestamp in my review. I think it's like 6:38. Alec Baldwin jump scare.
Oh my god!
I mentioned that.
He shows up like 6 minutes in the movie.
It's really a jump scare,
and then he doesn't show up until like the last
then he disappears for the next like 3 hours.
There was another there were two very awkward moments that I also had when I was watching about the government, the behind the scenes, which I know it's Michael Bay's staple to have government people talk about something vaguely related. It's been in I think all of his movies except for Bad Boys, but when it showed the council, it was FDR. I'm like, yo, it's FDR. I'm like, oh my fucking god, it's Jon Voight. And fun fact, not exactly a spoiler, but it will lead into the discussion in a few weeks. Jon Voight is in Transformers 1 as a generic government man.
Yeah,
so I guess
Jon Voight's portrayal of FDR in this movie is pretty interesting, I guess.
It's interesting
it wasn't malignant. It was probably
sometimes I liked the attention to detail of like when it was showing like how he would try to look like he wasn't in a wheelchair, for like certain speeches. Like that was a fun little detail. It kind of reminded me of like X-Men Days of Future Past when there was like the tapes reference.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me to another fact about that.
Yeah.
Is that Jon Voight is a self-proclaimed FDR specialist, and he he pleaded Michael Bay to let him be FDR in this movie.
That's funny because I was never convinced at a single point that he was FDR.
Yeah, I thought I saw like, oh, it's
other than like the vague resemblance from all the makeup and stuff, I was like, it could have been anyone.
He doesn't really look like him.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, like not necessarily that like an actor has to look exactly like the person they're playing, but I want to get them to at least get like the character down and like you make them at least like feels like them. I never felt like it was FDR.
I could have been FDR.
Yeah, I could have been FDR. My mom probably could have been FDR.
One thing about the government is that really fucking shocked me is it's like an hour. It's like not quite an hour, and it's right before the Ben Affleck death fake out. It shows like a very large amount of the council. I'm like, that looks like Dan Aykroyd. And then he speaks, and I realize it is Dan Aykroyd
in this movie.
What the fuck is Dan Aykroyd doing in Pearl Harbor?
He's like very much so like he like feels like his like every Dan Aykroyd character he's played, but just like in Pearl Harbor, so it doesn't fit at all.
No funny, no silly, just
I pulled up a side by side, and you know what? I do actually kind of see the resemblance, but now that I'm looking at it a bit more, they did not try to use any like practical effects like makeup or anything, or even a bit of CG to make him look more like him. He just sort of vaguely looks like him.
Jon Voight with fucking 2001 CG.
I mean, what would be better? Jon Voight's portrayal FDR or CGI?
Okay, but imagine if they did like end of Mando season 2, Uncanny Valley, like Luke Skywalker, but it was like an old president. But it was in 2001.
JFK and Transformers 3.
Yeah.
Or I find it funny because like the CGI they used like in like Forrest Gump for like all the old figures like JFK, like that was like revolutionary and still looks really good today. And they never got it right like 30 years later.
Yeah, Transformers 3 is a 2011 movie where the entire last act is just fucking CGI robots blowing up Chicago, and you can't make JFK look like he's not from a goddamn Xbox 360 game.
Nope.
Apparently not.
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about all of this stuff because the actual plot of this movie is like so boring.
We have to grasp at straws.
Yeah.
I've discovered an interesting phenomenon where I think, Jacob, that both of us were right. Because if you look at this image, from this like diagonal sort of view of him, he almost vaguely could like, okay, I see why he was casted, right? But then if you look at any head-on image of Jon Voight, you're like in this movie, it's like, oh, who is this?
Jon Voight.
Yeah, that's just Jon Voight with glasses.
Yeah.
They didn't even like
and Clark Kent.
They actually didn't even change his hair from what it normally is. Except they like gave it a little bit of gel. Like that's it. That's just Jon Voight.
It's also just weird to see Jon Voight with hair because his hair is completely fucked and transformed.
Oh yeah.
It was funny seeing him before he got blacklisted from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still post Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What else can we touch on?
So do you want to like get into like the actual plot of the movie now?
Women in this movie, Michael Bay probably got like people like, oh man, there aren't enough women, and then Michael Bay's like, what? There aren't enough women in this movie?
I actually have a theory for this.
And I think exact sequence.
This exact sequence, except I think that's very close to what actually happened. Because what I think happened is, coming off the heels of those movies, are like, oh, you really haven't been doing that too well. So he was like, okay, so at the beginning of this movie, I'm going to cast a bunch of female characters, but then I'm just going to have the movie, of course, set in around the time of Pearl Harbor. So they're just going to be nurses, and we're just going to have them in the background.
The only thing they talk about is men. In the men,
which is weird because like the nurses served a very important role in Pearl Harbor.
Very much so.
But instead, to portray that, all they did was they just showed them like panicking in very shaky shots, and you couldn't even tell like who was talking. Yeah. And that for a few seconds, like between the action, and it just made it so disorienting. Like they should have like separated it more.
Yeah, they were reduced from like 0-dimensional thirsty characters to like background elements.
Yeah.
They were exactly as useful as like the fucking walls on the submarine set.
But at least like at first when they were like that, like it was weird because in the first like 10 minutes, I think they have like the most screen time, like by a long shot.
Because it was that weird like editing thing.
Right, like after that little flashback, like they have like the most screen time in the beginning of the movie.
They talk on the train, and then really they cut to like the main shots. Oh wait, well actually that's toward the can I just like mention something from the beginning of the movie before we get to that?
Yeah.
So I was just saying that I think all the title cards they use for like the times and places, it looked exactly like the font they used in the Scream movies. I don't know if any of you noticed that.
No. Yeah. I thought it looked like a horror movie. Yeah. The way they had the text for some reason. I was like, that's very weird.
Yeah.
I think in production, they couldn't quite decide how to edit this movie. Like in terms of genres, they're like, just throw in everything.
Well, throw in everything was Armageddon.
We'll have Scream.
Every type of cut ever known to man.
We'll have the Scream font. We'll have Alec Baldwin jump scares. That'll cover the horror aspect.
I like how that's included in editing.
Yeah. They knew what they were doing.
The better of. Yeah. About the female characters, because I think there's surprisingly a lot of ground to unpack there. I noticed one of them looked familiar, besides obviously Kate Beckinsale is the main one. One of them was Jennifer Gardner, and I'd like to wonder.
This was, I believe, where she met Ben Affleck, and they were married. I was going to
say, if Ben Affleck sees her in the crowd of like the thirst, like quintuplets, and it's like, I'm trying to do my best, Ben Affleck. You know what? I'm gonna marry and then cheat on this one. Because at the moment it was cemented in his head.
Just like what happened to my character in this movie.
Hey Gabe, want to be in Daredevil 2 years
1940. 1940.
Oh my god, I just realized Daredevil is only 2 years after this.
Yeah, oh my god.
Honestly, this looks better.
Yeah. No, I like this. I like Daredevil.
Daredevil is
incredible. Oh no, I love the Daredevil movie way more than this. I think it's way funnier, but I honestly think visuals wise.
No, I think Daredevil's objectively better too. Honestly,
Daredevil has silly, crusty.
Let me just say,
this has generic visuals.
Regarding Kate Beckinsale, I think Kate Beckinsale is a really good actress. Like watched the Last Days of Disco. It's one of my favorite movies from the 90s. But her character is just so one dimensional in this. She's literally just there to be the woman character in the love child. At least like with Rose in Titanic, at least she was an actual character that had like a fairly decent performance from Kate Winslet. She's just nothing in this. She's just a nurse who likes Ben Affleck, and then he dies, and then falls in love with Josh Hartnett. That is literally it. I cannot think of a single definable aspect of her character. I can think of a single definable aspect of most characters in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a lot of characters and a lot of actor like appearances. Like Cuba Gooding Jr. I think he got a cumulative like 5 seconds of screen time. Was it? No, I'm kidding. But like you think he's introduced and he's in like a what the hell is it called? Like Sherlock Holmes like boxing match.
Oh yeah.
And he's sitting. He gets helped out by the chef, and he gets helped out by the nurse Kate Beckinsale. And I'm like, oh, maybe there's going to be a love interest with him, and then he's discarded, and then he shows up randomly in the middle of the Pearl Harbor bombing sequence.
Yeah. Were any of the none of the characters in the movie other than him and FDR, I guess, were real, were they? I think it was a made-up story for
I hope the rest weren't. So he's in that for almost no time. There was, oh my god, did you notice? I felt like the fucking biggest brain, like galaxy brain dude. When it cuts back, oh, here's another can of worms to open the floor. When it shows the Japanese administration, it shows any of the military.
Those scenes were like really boring and bad.
the little pond with the toy boats. I feel like that is probably not how they did that. Yeah, but they were just like, you know what, we gotta. How can we portray that they have like a different type of military than us? Oh, I know exactly how we're gonna do this. It was just
there were a bunch of toy boats in like a pool to show their strategy for bombing Pearl Harbor. Yeah, sure.
One thing that blew my fucking mind that I figured out is when the main guy, like the leader, was talking, he sounded familiar. Do you guys know who that was?
Who?
That was Mako, the voice of Aku from Samurai Jack.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
I'm like, long ago, like I in Iroh and Avatar. I'm like, holy shit, that has to be him, and it was. And I felt, I don't know, it's just like one of those things don't expect. Like,
I think it's something to grasp onto in this.
Oh my god, I forgot about Dan Aykroyd. There are a lot of weird cameos in this movie. I guess a lot of people are just like, God, I really want to be in a Michael Bay movie.
I guess maybe like this was like, I guess like their thought was this would be the next Titanic, and it made money, I guess, but like at what cost?
And moral cost.
What's interesting is the tone of these cameo scenes, I guess I would call them, like, are usually kind of different from the rest of the movie. Like, you can tell that they're actually like trying, and like it's almost like they're being told like, oh, this is the next Titanic. Like, you need to like act your heart out in this scene. Like, Dan Aykroyd was just like a very like very into that like military guy fucking role.
Military guy, not like a silly wacko.
Like, I've never really seen him serious. It was weird.
That's why it was so weird. That's why that cameo kind of weirded me out, because he's not saying like.
That's honestly why I didn't even realize it was him at first.
Exact same thing. No, I thought it was some random guy.
Just some dude.
And it's like, no, that's fucking Dan Aykroyd. Speaking of cameos and speaking of also Michael Bay movies. And right at the beginning, you notice a familiar character right at the beginning, or familiar actor, should I say?
Who was it again?
William Fichtner was the extraordinarily comically abusive father in the first. Movie.
Right.
Well,
I think I wrote a crackdown
until he learned his lesson, of course.
A quote down. I just wrote down "crack shooting daddy." I'm not sure what that means, but I wrote that down, and I forgot when it happened.
He does drugs.
I forgot who said it, but I did write down "crack shooting daddy" because that's a quote from Pearl Harbor.
I'm pretty sure it was Danny's father, and then Ben Affleck's character as a kid was like, go away.
Also, they were kind of racist in the beginning. The kids they're pretending to shoot down and kill all the Germans or whatever.
Just in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just in the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, no, Ben Affleck's good. Maybe he's matured since childhood, but why would you show that Michael Bay? I'm not sure.
Also, one I would say it's cameo, but he was just an actual character that had more than 2 lines and kept showing up until the very end. Michael Shannon.
Yeah. Michael Shannon was
his sinister glare anywhere.
Yeah. I think it was like this is probably one of his like first like major role or major roles in a motion picture. And I guess he was at least something in this movie. Again, little bits and pieces to grasp onto. It gives me something to be slightly entertained by.
If it sounds sporadic and nonsensical, that's because we're trying to think of something that's fun to talk about.
We're all college students here. We have a lot of work to do. we could be doing so much things for our time, and we decided, I decided to start a podcast where we have to watch a 3-hour boring ass Michael Bay movie. So I have to apologize for that.
I forgive you.
Yeah.
What else? What other ground is there to cover? Guy with a stutter.
Yeah, because like the plot's just so simple. It's just a love triangle. Ben Affleck falls in love with Kate Beckinsale. They're there for like a week. He has to like go to like Europe. He dies at some point. He thinks, they think he's dead. He's like out of the movie for like 30 minutes. Falls in love with Kate Beckinsale falls in love with Josh Hartnett.
Within days.
And then he comes back.
Months. It is months. My bad. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Then Pearl Harbor happens. So
and then after that happens, the Doolittle raid happens, led by Alec motherfucking Baldwin.
Yeah.
Now I did mention this to Jacob a little bit, like throughout the movie, kind of. Well, throughout the first third of the movie. So like 7 hours in, I stopped. That like I can kind of excuse like the first act of the movie being surrounding a lot like like the whole like romantic subplot and like everyone just kind of like living normal life and like being all happy and stuff, because I don't know if they actually thought of this, but I always kind of felt like this is what they were going for is in America around that time, right before the attack, a lot of shit, it was kind of like that, like, oh, going off to be stationed at Pearl Harbor, everything will be fine, that they're all like just like vacationing there or practically, like they really didn't think anything would go wrong, so I think it was kind of trying to juxtapose with the horror that we see.
Okay. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think
John,
you're right.
That is exactly what they tried to do. That is,
but it was very poorly executed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't do it very well.
Color palette wise, sure. The frivolousness and the ignorance may be a little overplayed. I'm not 100% sure. But you said something along the lines in that analysis that you could excuse the romance in the first third. What the fuck are you smoking? Can I have some?
I said I can maybe excuse it.
How far maybe?
Now,
60, 40, 70?
I would rather see...
my main thing, which is why I can't be like, oh, that's fine, that makes sense, is the fact that it takes up an hour.
Dude, I would rather see Ben Affleck put animal crackers on Liv Tyler's like belly button for like 3 hours than watch this again.
Like if this was like an hour 45 movie and most of that stuff was done in the first like 20 to 30 minutes, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Given this double,
but it's not. It's not.
If it was half as long.
Yeah, but then they decided to double the movie.
What do you guys think of like the actual like action part of the movie?
I have the least negative things to say about it, interestingly.
I mean, like, me too, because I was like, we're finally getting to something at that point in the movie.
It's also weird how you're watching a movie so boring that Pearl Harbor, one of the most like atrocious fucking military attacks in World War I, like recorded military attacks, is like yeah, let's fucking go, like something's happening.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is kind of unfortunate, but like, this is what Michael Bay made me do.
Exactly. The explosion there was a good blending of practical and computer effects for the era, which I was impressed.
I think it looked. I can't like judge the CGI that much because it's mostly planes and you can't, and like it was 2001, so it looked fairly decent for the time.
Plane CGI looks terrible these days too. So
yeah. True. And a lot of there were like actual explosions in this, unlike Armageddon. I'll give it that.
Yeah, most of the explosions were practical. I know another fun fact. I'm just sprinkling in the trivia today, aren't I? I'll let you go after this one, John. But this held at its time the record for most explosions in a movie.
Huh?
You know how many it was?
Most of those.
You know what? I get it. I can see how.
But they were mostly practical. Armageddon might have more explosions, but they're all incoherent popcorn pizza explosions.
Yeah. Dude, those explosions made me hungry.
I'm hungry. I just had a granola bar. I could go for some food. I'll fucking start eating my computer if you put something tasty enough on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. When it came to the actual the action part, the second act of the movie, the end of the second act for some reason. I it wasn't bad, but my problem isn't even with the action itself. It's the fact that it took so long to get to it that by that point I was mostly like checked out already, and it wasn't really enough to bring me back in. Especially when I knew that was the peak of the movie. It only got worse, like action wise, after that.
Yeah, I feel like
so once it was done,
if we're comparing something
it was just done.
Yeah.
What are we comparing it to?
If we're comparing something like Titanic, right? Well, obviously it's like the most easy comparison. At least like I feel like it does, even though I don't think the romance Titanic's like great because James Cameron's not like very good a romance writer, is at least like kind of interesting, like what they do with like when they're on the ship and like how like they meet and like fall in love and how it's like so quickly like abrupted by the event of the Titanic, which granted is very much so a spectacle. When I feel like we're just getting like okay, like to decent like action, like halfway through the movie when we've already seen like 80 to 90 minutes of just boring ass romance.
Bullshit.
Like it's not a good payoff.
It's not a worthy payoff either. I'm not saying Michael Bay, you should have quadrupled the explosions. Not what I'm saying. The movie itself is just structured in a way that any amount of action would still be fucking unfulfilling.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it would have been better just a 1940s romance movie that was just way shorter, and at least they were probably doing some audience for that.
Or alternately, Michael Bay just makes a full-on war movie, which kind of sounds like would be awesome.
Yeah, well, isn't it? I'm assuming that's what 13 Hours is going to be. Hopefully that'll be decent, but yeah, it was just.
I mean, like World War II. I don't mean. Isn't 13 Hours more contemporary?
Yeah, but I'm saying like in general.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah,
I guess that is the closest we get.
Yeah, and I do agree. He could have made like because like there's also another like good like it's not World War II, but there's another good war movie out there, Black Hawk Down, directed by Ridley Scott, which is basically just like a 2.5 hours of just visceral action. You don't care about any of the characters. There's barely a plot, but like it just gets you like so like into like the events of what's happening that it doesn't matter about. It's basically like also similar with Dunkirk, right? Michael Bay should have made this movie more like Dunkirk. You don't care about the characters. There's barely a plot, but the action and effects is what keeps you invested. That's probably what Michael Bay would do best.
Imagine if you're watching this movie for the first time, whenever it would have come out, if it were a different movie, just double hypothetical here, and then Ben Affleck like crashes in the sea or whatever, and he's just dead. Imagine that. That would be bold.
That would be good.
Imagine having the movie up till the point, like have Ben Affleck live and don't even have the fucking brother character. Have it be a romance between Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale. And then Pearl Harbor happens and he fucking dies. And then there's just half the movie where you have to deal with that. That would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah, for sure.
To show like war can take anyone from you, including your great hero Ben Affleck. I mean, obviously you wouldn't get paid for it. I know it's not plausible, but something like that could have been way more investing than she loves her, she loves him, he quote unquote dies, brother decides to fuck her in the tent room.
Yeah.
Parachute room. I'm sorry. Even
stupider. Yeah, come on.
God. Yeah.
What else? Ground? Oh yeah, stuttering guy. Can we talk about the stuttering guy?
I guess like I mean like it was kind of weird that they were playing that for jokes. Like that was like his only character. I guess like his stutter like helped him pick up women. Also, she was the girl he was gonna marry was 17 in the movie. That was like very weird.
Then she died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, I lied about my age, and then I was like, wait, what?
You what? I didn't recognize that when I first saw it. Like when I first saw that sequence, and then later they just say like one of the other girls says she's 17. I'm like, oh, like
so the starring guy was a sexual predator, I guess.
Perhaps, but he reminded me of another war movie, the Irish guy from Wonder Woman. He looked very similar. He had the same like rat-like visage.
He played this character called Spud in Train Spotting, which are obviously kind of similar characters. You get like the weird side character who's like quirky, But like,
Exactly.
I definitely worked better in Train Spotting than this because he was just like barely like a second thought in this.
Train Spotting. I spotted a train in this movie.
Yeah, there was, wasn't there?
Ben Affleck rode away from.
Of course, the classic when someone's in a train and they keep running until you can't see them again. Classic in every fucking.
Okay, guys. Heads up, I might be the dumbest man alive. I said that the guy with the stutter reminded me of the guy from Wonder Woman. It's the same actor. I'm a fucking idiot.
Right.
I'm a complete.
Well, I mean, that
idiot.
just makes sense.
That explains why he reminded me of him because they are the same person.
That does add up.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, it's just very funny to me because I love that character Wonder Woman. He has the best expression in any movie ever in that film.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my notes real quick.
Where I just wrote Chris Pratt in Guardians 2.
I know. I think this guy's expression's better than that Chris Pratt picture. I'll find it again and I'll fucking send it. I'll do it.
I wrote like around 2 hours in the movie. Feel like impatient child.
That was me setting it to times 2 speed, an hour and a half.
You know that like one clip of like the kid who just keeps fidgeting in his chair for like 10 minutes. Yeah, that's me. That was me.
Yeah. I felt like if I had more room, I'd start pacing angrily around my room like a goddamn cartoon supervillain, looking at his bumbling henchman fail him again.
Arm behind his back.
Because Michael Bay failed me.
Another 3 hours of my day ruined.
Yeah, Armageddon was a little shorter, and it was so bad. It was Armageddon's also terrible. I don't know if I consider this worse or better than Armageddon, but okay.
I think it's worse.
I'd say they're bad in equivalent ways. Armageddon, you're never bored, but whatever you're seeing is just an assault on your senses. And in this, everything's just boring, and your senses are numbed.
Yeah. I forever think that being boring is worse than being like stupidly bad or like entertainingly bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Armageddon more than this, but I think they're about the same level of filmmaking because Armageddon could actually give a person with no history of seizures a seizure. This definitely won't.
I guess
this will give someone with insomnia a few extra hours of sleep.
Yeah, I could definitely picture this being a good at least the first hour because the other parts are just explosions in my ears.
No one's won an Oscar for best sound editing.
Great, Michael Bay movie won an Oscar.
Well, I just sound editing. I can kind of see that in the war stuff, but the sound design was actually
a lot of like
decent.
war movies get good sound editing, like awards, like 1917.
1917, Dunkirk did, right?
Yeah, I'm assuming Dunkirk did.
I imagine. And all that. So yeah, I mean, if it's loud and gun, it will win best sound editing.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Man.
Okay, I really am grasping at straws. What the fuck else there to talk about this?
I'm looking at some trivia right now. Apparently, Matt Damon was in this movie. His role was firing a machine gun during the attack.
I think I can picture who that was, but I wouldn't have noticed it was Matt Damon.
Matt Damon probably like stuck his way on set to give like Ben Affleck like a noogie or something like that.
He just loves he's snaking his way back on it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's just like fuck, man. Like, it's so boring. Anything there isn't like even like that much good trivia for this movie. Let's see here. Michael Bay became frustrated with Josh Hartnett's series approach to acting so much that when he caught him smiling on film, he said, "Send that smile to ILM and tell them to copy and paste it." What does that mean?
Computer graphics.
Yeah. Well, I do love like pretty much like everyone like who's ever worked on Michael Bay set just like say it's like insane and it's like funny like seeing like all the different accounts, but like even like with this movie there aren't like that many. I think it's like better with like the Transformers movies. Like yeah, man, like there's really like not super much more to say about it. I don't think.
Yeah, which is saying something, honestly, more than anything we've said, because it's a 3-hour movie and there's not much else to say.
Yeah,
silence speaks volumes.
It's incredibly boring. I think it's the film equivalent to homework. It's long, boring, and and I don't even feel like I learned anything from this movie.
No.
Yeah, I think it sucks. It's my least favorite Michael Bay movie I've seen so far.
Oh well, just wait till you get to some of the ones he's produced.
I'm so excited.
That's down the pipeline.
Not really.
Yeah, down the pipeline.
Yeah.
So at least most of his movies that he directs, it has a certain style to it, that you can kind of enjoy sometimes, most of the time. Sometimes a little bit.
Sometimes.
None of the time.
A little bit. Occasionally.
Once.
Maybe
never.
I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Thank you, John / Ronnie Flan, for coming on and of course doing all of our channel thumbnails, plus the banner, plus the our profile
plus
picture.
L plus ratio. Plus fine pilled.
I believe you're coming on again for 6 Underground, and that should be fun.
Yeah. I at least would like to do that for sure.
Feel free to come back anytime. And I also want to say thank you guys for watching. We have over 100 views on the channel now. I think it's like that. I think it's like pretty good for only 3 videos for a channel just started. So thank you guys a lot.
It's amazing.
I really appreciate it from all of y'all who tune in and watch or listen.
If I can just plug one thing.
Of course, feel free to plug anything.
I would like everyone here to just make sure to go check out my new James Cameron podcast, James Cameron Action, where I go through every James Cameron.
Like all 6 of them.
I'd rather die. I fucking hate James Cameron.
Thank you guys for watching, and tune in next week when we watch the sequel to Bad Boys called I forgot what was it called again.
Badder Boys
2.
I'm actually looking forward
to boy
because I think pretty much the only 2 opinions on it is that it's way better or way worse than the original. So I'm curious to what I will think of that. That should be fun. Definitely way more fun than this movie. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next week. See you later.
Take care.